Hello, I'm Jennifer Woodward. I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and a board certified functional wellness coach. And today I want to welcome you to our chat on women, faith, and hormones. As I said, I've got a couple titles. I also am pursuing my master's degree in integrative nutrition. I get to work with women all over the world to help them soothe their digestive woes, speed up their metabolisms, and stabilize their hormone imbalances. I'm also the executive director of the Association of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition Professionals, and I really love getting to help new FDNs thrive professionally. Recently, I've completed a quarter-long guest lecture position in endocrinology at Parker University. And my free time is well spent homeschooling my four children, three now. My son goes to BCHS. When I can sneak out, I love to play ultimate frisbee and walk with my dog Baxter. I wish I had a picture of Baxter to show you. He's so cute. That's my family. My husband Bo and I have been married for 19 years. Jackson is my oldest, so my one daughter Rebecca is 13, and Chase and Roman just turned 11 and 9. So it's a full and fun life, but I know very well what it looks like to have some major hormone imbalance. I've experienced it myself. It is not fun. And now I love to get to share with women how they can reverse all of those awful hormone issues that seem to pop up around this time in life. What they can do to help themselves. So that's what this presentation is going to be about today. Thanks for being here with me. I love getting to teach women about hormones. Here's a little roadmap of where we're going to go today. Some knowledge I'll teach you. Few of us are even taught about our hormones. We don't know what it looks like to have a healthy period, what our endocrine system looks like. Nobody teaches us those things. So I'm going to share a little bit about that with you today. We're going to go over what it looks like to be consistent. Sometimes when external results are hard to see, we just give up, right? Who's tried the keto diet here for, 2 weeks, or the vegan diet for a month, or a new exercise routine for, 2 weeks in January, joining a gym? It's really hard to see results when we're not consistent. It's really hard to be consistent when we don't see results. So we'll talk about that a little bit today as well. We're going to talk about growth because the path to health never ends. And that can be daunting when you first think about it, but it's also very freeing. There's no end game with your hormones. There's no end game with your fitness journey or your health journey. It's just a path that you choose to kind of wander along. And again, when you get onto that path, it can be very freeing. You're not hopping from path to path to path. We're also going to talk about grace today. When you give grace to yourself, you can give grace to others. And I work with women, like I said, all over the world. And it's really hard for women to give grace to others when they're constantly down on themselves, when they're always thinking, I'm so fat, I'm so ugly, I can't get in shape, my body's working against me. I've seen it in my own life, and I see it with a lot of my clients. It's, they get snappier with their husbands or their children, or they start to isolate from relationships. You've got to have grace for yourself, and then that grace can extend to others. And then, of course, we're going to talk about root cause function, and that's what I do as a functional diagnostic nutritionist. Is we look at root cause of dysfunction. And for me, with my area of expertise, it's hormonal dysfunction. Hormonal dysfunction does happen for a reason, and we'll get into some of those reasons today. In fact, it's one of my favorite things to talk about. First off, I just want to share with you this beautiful picture of a cell. This is the inner workings of one of the trillions of cells in your body. It's an electron microscope picture of a cell. So this is literally what a cell looks like under a microscope. Of course, it's been edited for color, so it looks like this gorgeous, futuristic miniature city. All these things are happening inside every cell in your body at every second of every day. And this little city exists in your body trillions upon trillions of times. And so remember, everything you put into your body, everything you do to your body or for your body or against your body is either working to support or to detract from the health and vitality of this teeny tiny beautiful little city. And it reminds me of Psalm 139 verse 14, one of my favorite verses in the whole Bible. I will praise you, for I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. And you can see that here, all these little intricate creations that God's put into our body is just, it's mind blowing. You know, the further you get into the biochemistry and anatomy of the body, the more you see how intelligently it's designed and how beautifully it's created. And really, the body's created to be in balance. Our bodies aren't created to work against us. They're created to be in balance because we have a mandate to work. We have a mandate to go forth and do things. And a body has to be able in order to do those things that we're commanded to do. So I just thought this picture was beautiful and I wanted to share it with you today. Now, when I first started getting into hormones, talking about hormones, you know, deciding I wanted to specialize in hormones, my husband's like, that's great, babe. What's a hormone? I thought, oh, well, we should operationally define these terms, right? And hormones are chemical messengers. That's really what they are in a nutshell. The brain talks to the body through hormones. Your brain receives signals, and then through the hypothalamus and pituitary, the brain sends out these chemical messengers, these hormones, to the rest of the body in order to perform the functions that the brain wants the body to do. Now, this is a little bit of a complicated diagram, but I just want to walk through it with you quickly because it's important for you to understand this. There's a steroid hormone cascade that happens in the body, and steroid hormones and sex hormones are synonymous. So your sex hormones are things that make you quintessentially male or female. So women have estrogen and progesterone, DHEA, they have little bits of testosterone as well. Men have testosterone, of course, little bits of estrogen as well. Pregnenolone and DHEA are common to both men and women. And so we have to have, you know, normal and effective levels of these hormones in the body to feel good, to feel normal, to feel like our body is cooperating and talking to each other appropriately. Now, the thing is that most women don't understand you need cholesterol to start the hormone cascade. You have to have enough fat in your body, dietarily and endogenously or inside the body, in order to create these hormones to begin with, right? And that is something lots of women are like, what? I need more fat in my diet. And recently it's become more in vogue to get more fat into your diet. We have the keto diet, we've had the Atkins diet, even the paleo diet, and sometimes a high fat vegan diet is advocated. So people are starting to see, you know, we need fat in our diet, but we're still as a culture, especially as women, suffering the backlash of the low fat diets of the 80s and 90s that stripped our bodies of all those really good, healthy, natural fats and started creating what researchers are saying, you know, is an obesity epidemic and Alzheimer's and neurodegenerative brain disease epidemic. Our bodies don't have the raw materials they need to function appropriately. So I'm very big on teaching women to nourish their bodies, to nourish their brains, to nourish their hormones. And the primary way we do that is by getting enough good food in the diet. And fat is, of course, one of the building blocks of your hormones. You can see here cholesterol, right, is a good thing because cholesterol creates pregnenolone, which is your master hormone. And then pregnenolone can create progesterone. It can then synthesize on one side to cortisol, which is your stress hormone. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. And on the other side, it will create DHEA, which is a building hormone, actually opposes the action of cortisol in the body. And then DHEA will convert into your androgens like testosterone. Remember, women still need testosterone. And then testosterone can convert into the estrogens, of which you have 3. And we'll be talking about that a lot today. But to create this hormone cascade, to even start the hormone cascade, you have to have sufficient levels of dietary fats like we just talked about and B vitamins. And B vitamins mainly come through animal products or meat. So raise your hand if you eat meat with every meal. Probably very little of you eat, very few of you eat meat with every single meal. Now, raise your hand if you feel like you're suffering from hormone imbalance. Okay, so there might be a correlation there, right? If you don't eat meat with every meal, it's possible that it's correlated. Now, correlation is not causation, but it's possible that it's correlated that your hormone imbalance could be stemming from not getting enough of these raw materials through animal products. So what we ask a lot at Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, one of my favorite questions to ask myself and my clients is, what makes you a good host? What makes you a good host for hormone imbalance? What makes you a good host for period problems? And I want you to consider that question with this diagram in mind as we continue through our series today. All right. So this is not going to shock any of you, but women are complex beings. We are very complex. In fact, after 19 years of marriage, my husband still looks at me sometimes like, he doesn't understand. Sometimes, shoot, I feel like I don't understand myself. Women are very complex. Our brain, our body, our hormones are all interconnected. And the brain is what starts that hormone cascade. Inputting signals into your brain that external cues you get from your environment, through relationships, through food, through, in other environmental stimuli, right? Toxins, good things and bad things. Your brain is going to start that hormone cascade. Now, your brain is actually mostly fat. It's made of 60% cholesterol. And if you can envision that, you've probably all seen like a brain on a medical show or a textbook, right? You can kind of think it's like kind of squishy and yellow, right? It's mostly made of fat. Now raise your hand if you think you eat plenty of good fats, of animal fats. So that'd be like, bacon grease or a marbled steak. Eggs have some good animal fat. Do you eat plenty of animal fat? And how do we figure out how much that is? And we'll get into that in a little bit. But likely you don't eat plenty of animal fat. And also likely your mom didn't eat plenty of animal fat. And so passing down through that maternal line, our moms, in the 70s and 80s, the low fat diets, they were cutting fat out of their diet. And that has long-term implications for us, the women that came in the next generation. Now, in the brain, especially today, stress input is constant. I mean, I can't think of a woman I know professionally or personally or in my family who doesn't complain of constant stress in their life, right? This isn't a singular stress like our ancestors used to experience where there was a famine for a period of time, or there was a predator after yourself or a loved one, or there was a winter storm that you had no way to protect yourself from. Those are stressors our ancestors used to deal with. Today, we are dealing with the stress of COVID and sitting in traffic and relationships with people on social media and a changing political climate and work difficulties and home difficulties and relationship difficulties. Things have gotten more difficult for women in the stress arena, and that stress input is constant. So what I want to show you here at this picture is that it's all related, right? We are all related. Everything in your body is related. And at FDN, we also say we don't treat anything specifically, but we work on the body non-specifically. So you can see from this picture here, that the liver is connected to the lungs. The brain is connected to the eyes. The heart is connected to the stomach and the kidney. It's all related. So there's not, there's not issues with women where like you have PCOS and migraines and insomnia and gallbladder issues, right? All of those things stem from the same issue. And what we call that is metabolic chaos, right? There's just chaos in the body. Everything has gotten out of whack, and it affects you on a micro metabolic level where there are all these, metabolic processes of the body of like creating and breaking down and enzymatic activity and reactions. But then on the macro metabolic level, like how fast your metabolism works. Are you getting oxygen to your cells? Are you warm during the day? Can you lose weight when you want to lose weight? Is your hair growing? Are your skin and nails healthy? Those are the micro and macro metabolic complexes and processes of the body, and it's all related. So we are created to create, of course. We are the only gender that can create, which is a beautiful thing, and that's, part of our objective as women. I don't mean to say that in a reductionistic way, and I have such compassion for women that, choose not to or aren't able to fulfill that just for whatever reason. I myself have gone through miscarriages. I work with women who have, and my heart just goes out to women who are infertile or miscarrying, and then of course women who just choose a different career or path in life. All of those things are okay, but just from a biological standpoint, our bodies are the only bodies that can create other humans. And in an ideal world, we do have effortless fertility, right? You're able to have normal cycles, periods. You're able to get pregnant when you want to get pregnant. You go through the healthy process of pre-menstruation, menstruation, and then post-menstruation or menopause. But here's the thing, ladies, our body must feel safe in order to have a period or in order to have a baby. Your body has to feel safe. And when you think about all the women around you who are having trouble with their periods or fertility issues, and you think about all the stress that is endemic to women in our day and age, you can see how we don't really feel safe from a physiological perspective. Our bodies are not healthy, strong, or safe enough to have that effortless period or fertility. And this has effect on the different axes of the body, right? So at the beginning of our time today, we talked about two organs in the brain, the hypothalamus and the pituitary. The hypothalamus is the gland that inputs all of those signals from the environment, and then the hypothalamus tells the pituitary to talk to the rest of the endocrine system and put out hormones that the body needs to perform all of its functions. And so there are a few different axes we're going to talk about today: hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal glands. And adrenals are these little cone-shaped organs that sit on top of your kidneys and respond to stress in the environment in the body. So they output a substance called cortisol, which is essentially your stress hormone. You may have heard of it. You can raise your hand if you have cortisol. It is one of the primary stress hormones that the body puts out during times of duress. There's also the HPO axis, so hypothalamus, pituitary, and for women, ovaries. It's called the HPG axis, hypothalamus, pituitary, and gonads. But today we're talking about ovaries because we're a group of women. So the HPO axis is hypothalamus, pituitary, and ovaries. And ovaries, of course, is where the magic happens for creation of a baby, right? And a healthy period as well. And then the HPT axis, so hypothalamus, pituitary, and thyroid. All right, thyroid. Raise your hand if you've got issues with your thyroid. Hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism, Hashimoto's, Graves. Yep, a few of you. Okay. So we've got some issues with the thyroid, and just as a cursory introduction to that, a lot of those thyroid issues stem from problems with brain signaling, stress input, overwhelming of the body, and not feeling safe enough to have your thyroid, really work with the metabolic processes of the body. So when the brain inputs stress signals, it uses hormones to tell the body that the body is not safe. And then the body's created to start crying for help. It has to your body has to talk back to your brain. If you're constantly ignoring your body and saying, we'll deal with that later, we're just going to stuff down that emotion for now. It's not okay for me to feel angry or anxious or depressed or frustrated or confused or scared. We'll deal with those medical diagnoses later. I'll deal with my period problems later. Your body's like, oh, hold up. I don't think so. I'm gonna get your attention. So I'm gonna start crying for help. And that usually happens with things like weight gain, insomnia, period problems, chronic illness, autoimmune disease. All right. Let's talk about what a normal menstrual cycle looks like. Menstruating women go through the follicular phase. That's about 14 days, days 1 through 14 of your period. Day 1 is the day that you first start bleeding. Not spotting, not trickling. Your full bleed is day 1 of your period. About 14 days from day 1 is your ovulation day. So it only takes a couple minutes to ovulate. It can be really painful for some women. You can have some other symptoms like headache, nausea, actual pain from ovulation around that time of ovulation, but it happens around day 14. And then days 14 through 28 of your cycle, the normal 28-day cycle, is called the luteal phase. Now, what happens in the luteal phase is really interesting. Once you ovulate, so the egg is released from the follicle, and that's in a healthy period, your egg is released from the follicle. That follicle becomes something else. It's kind of amazing. In the span of a day, less than a day, that follicle, which is just, you can think of like your hair follicle or a pore on your hand. It's very similar to that. It's tiny, and there's a tiny egg that comes out of it. But then once that egg is released, that follicle becomes what we call the corpus luteum. That refers to yellow body. And the corpus luteum actually turns itself into, or the follicle turns itself into a corpus luteum. In less than a day, this becomes a fully vascularized structure in the body. So it gets blood flow to this little 4 centimeter corpus luteum that now starts producing progesterone. And progesterone is my favorite hormone. If I had to pick one, it would absolutely be progesterone. Progesterone is shortened from the phrase progestation hormone, so it kind of means like for a baby. It helps you if you desire to have a baby. It also, and this is why it's my favorite hormone, helps you chill out. It helps you sleep. It helps you relax. It is a beautifully balancing hormone and one that I find most women are deficient in. Now, here's something I need to share with you. The corpus luteum can create itself only if you've ovulated, so only if that egg is released. And so many women don't ovulate. If you've got something like polycystic ovarian syndrome or anovulatory cycles, delayed ovulation, or just no ovulation at all, you don't create the corpus luteum. And when you don't create the corpus luteum, you don't create my favorite hormone, which is progesterone. Now, something that is, not very popular, but very true nonetheless, is that birth control, hormonal birth control, shuts down ovulation. That's the mechanism of action of why it was created. No ovulation, no baby. And so not being able to ovulate means that you never create a corpus luteum, meaning you never create progesterone. And we're going to see why that's so detrimental short-term and long-term here coming up pretty soon. In phase 1, you can see on my chart, estrogen rises. So days 1 through 14, estrogen really rises all the way to day 14. And right around day 14, that really, big rise in estrogen stimulates the body to actually release the egg from the follicle. And later on in the cycle, the luteal phase, progesterone kind of rises to the occasion to meet the need of the hormone needs of the body. And you'll see here, when progesterone's not available, you start experiencing some pretty nasty PMS symptoms. The whole point of the rising progesterone is to shed the uterine lining, and that's what a healthy period looks like. You're getting rid of that uterine lining that's built up in anticipation of a possible pregnancy. When that doesn't happen, progesterone lets your body go and releases that uterine lining. All right. So that's what a normal cycle looks like. And when I say normal, women can have cycles anywhere from 21 to 35 days. That's all within the realm of normalcy. If it's longer than that or shorter than that, there are some hormone issues going on. Here are some estrogen issues. Now, estrogen, remember, is supposed to rise during the first 14 days of your cycle. Days 1 through 14, estrogen is starting to rise. But when estrogen gets out of control, we have problems. And I believe we are in a pandemic of estrogen excess and estrogen issues. And I'll share with you why I think that is. Number 1, birth control and outside hormones, so hormone replacement therapy, even bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, lead to excess estrogen in the body. Of course, that's what it's supposed to do, right? Number 2, personal care products like plastics, alcohol, fried foods, copper, constipation, low-fat foods, plant foods, gallbladder issues. These all lead to excess estrogen in the body too. And what this presents as is symptoms that are awful for women, right? PMS, sore boobies, mood issues, hot flashes, weight gain, more gallbladder problems, infertility, sleep issues, and growths in the body like cysts or endometriosis. So there are some big problems with too much estrogen in our body and in our environment. And this is what Marla said to me when we were talking about the topic for today's presentation. She said, Jennifer, I have premenopausal, full-on menopause, moms at home in stress, young ladies with stress and depression, issues like hair loss, weight gain, overwhelming, just feelings of being overwhelmed, sleepless nights, PCOS. And, in a nutshell, I can sum that up for you. This is due to too much estrogen and too little progesterone, all of it. Now, of course, there's confounding factors, and we don't take a reductionistic view on this, but it's a place that we can start from and work backwards. If there's too much estrogen in the body and not enough progesterone, how can we balance those out using natural means? And I'm going to walk you through how to do that. Here's one of the reasons why it starts to begin with, you guys. we're not meant to do it all. And that may or may not be a popular sentiment among you. And there are probably many of you who, like me, are perfectionists who are working on it, trying not to be perfectionists. We are not meant to do it all. Most of us were raised to do it all and encouraged to do it all. And at some point, our bodies just said, no, that's not happening anymore. We are not small men. Men have a much greater capacity for work and stress than we do because their hormones aren't dependent on stress levels like ours. Now, women are moms, wives, employees, volunteers, chefs, chauffeurs, therapists, housekeepers, content creator, friends, daughters, sisters, niece, the rock of families, and also friend groups. We're employers, we're running businesses, and those are good things. Those are very good things because women are meant to nurture and to push out. We are meant to nourish other people. We excel at that. We excel at nurturing and we excel at relationships. And when we can't do these things well, we feel a little bit lost. And our foundation of nourishment is just not there. As I said, starting in the 70s and 80s, we started thinking that it was fun to diet. We started thinking that it was a pastime to try every new diet. And as we did that, we became progressively less and less nourished. And we became a culture of women who are starving and still don't have all the nutrients that we need. Even though many of us are starving, we're still overweight because we don't have all of those minerals and vitamins that our bodies need and are seeking out all the time because we've not allowed ourselves to have a full nourishing diet, and other factors too, but that's one of the main ones I see in my practice. Physical nourishment is so important, ladies. Good fats, like we talked about, and there are plant fats and animal fats. So as we discussed in the beginning, like a good steak or bacon or salmon, a nice fatty fish, butter, eggs, and then on the plant side, avocado, coconut, olive, those are good fats in the body. Animal protein is very important for women unless you have a religious confliction there, and that's perfectly reasonable, but I'd still encourage you to get protein into your diet every single meal. And of course, fruits and vegetables. There's no diet in the world that is, well, except maybe the carnivore diet, maybe the keto diet. So I retract my statement, but very few diets in the world are ever going to tell you that fruits and vegetables are not okay or beneficial for the body. In fact, research shows that fruits and vegetables are extremely beneficial for the body. My friend Sarah Shahoyab and I have a piece coming out on Channel 29 soon where we talk about, the impact of food on mood. So depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, all of those things that, especially women tend to be susceptible to, how much those are influenced by a good diet, a nourishing diet. We talk a lot about phytonutrients, micronutrients, phytochemicals, the importance of fruits and vegetables in the diet. And you can watch my website to see when that's coming out soon, okay? So physical nourishment is important. Protein, fiber, fat, and greens. That's something I love to teach my clients. Those 4 words. Jennifer, what should I eat? Well, this is what you should eat. Protein, fiber, fat, and greens. You need a palm-sized serving of protein. So I'm 5'11". I'm tall. So my palm is going to be probably a little bit larger than many of your palms. But I still need, comparatively, a palm-sized serving of protein about 3 times a day, especially if I'm coming from a place of malnourishment, of chronic dieting, of chronic illness, of hormone insufficiency or imbalance. As you get stronger, your diet might be able to vary a little bit more, but at the beginning, when you're starting to heal, you need a palm-sized serving of protein 3 times a day. And then a fist-sized serving of veggies 3 times a day as well, sometimes more than that. There are physicians and researchers that advocate much more than that, double or triple that amount of vegetables every day. One caveat: if you're suffering from symptoms of IBS, constipation, diarrhea, gas, bloating, inflammation, you'll want cooked vegetables instead of raw vegetables. And if you feel like you're undernourished or malnourished, you also want to have cooked vegetables instead of raw vegetables. A cupped hand of fruit, so cupped hand is about a half a cup of fruit 1 to 2 times a day. More if your ancestors lived in like equatorial areas. So if you were an islander or you lived in a very warm climate around the equator, you can handle more fruit and starch. But if you're like me and your ancestors were, Eastern European living in very cold climates, you probably need a little bit less fruit. Your body's not biologically equipped to handle that starch and sugar as well as some of our equatorial contemporaries, or really ancestors, I suppose. A thumb size serving of fat 2 to 3 times a day. That's about, from the base of your thumb to the top of your thumb, it's about 2 tablespoons. You'll do that 2 to 3 times a day. And that's, obviously way less than keto, more than your mom or your grandmother probably ate, but this is a reasonable size serving of fat for hormone balance for women. And then a small treat. On all of my plans, I advocate a treat every single day, a small treat. If you don't do that for yourself every single day, you will be face down in the pantry come Saturday night with the Girl Scout cookies because you've restricted, and eventually it's going to end in a binge. So why not teach yourself balance and moderation and reasonable ways of indulging? One of my favorite treats for my ladies is 2 tablespoons of chocolate chips every night. All right. If you've measured that out, sometimes it feels like a lot of chocolate chips. Sometimes it feels like not very many chocolate chips at all, but that's a nice treat where you get your chocolate, but it's not overwhelming to the body or the endocrine system or the digestive system. So that's one thing, again, that I advocate and recommend for all of my clients. But it's not just about the food, of course, right? We talked about what happens with stress and emotions in the body. If you don't slow down, your body will get your attention. I promise you. I promise you that will happen. If you are not taking care of your body will talk back to you, and it's not going to be pretty. So I recommend that you start right now, slowing down, letting the first word out of your mouth be no and working backwards instead of the first word out of your mouth being yes and then struggling to figure out how the heck you're going to accomplish everything. And incorporate some of these kind of healing techniques into your day. It's not crazy. It's not like I'm telling you go spend $75 on a massage and go buy an infrared sauna and only eat organic food. That's not important. What's important is that you put little bits of stress relieving activities that are manageable and practical into your day every single day. Make it a habit. So one of my favorite things to do with my clients, Epsom salt baths every night, every single night. Give yourself 30 minutes to get into a bath and journal, listen to a podcast, a sermon, a book on tape, some music. Have it be quiet or silent. Maybe you don't do anything at all, but definitely no phones, no iPads, no work, please. No computers in the bathtub. It's time for journaling, listening, and quieting down. And we do that before bed because the Epsom salts have magnesium sulfate, and those are very relaxing to the body. Magnesium is a highly relaxing mineral. Something else, of course, I advocate every single day is some time in scripture and prayer. We on the creation side, we would say something like scripture reading and prayer. Perhaps like the more contemporary thing to do would to be advocating meditation. If that's what you do, that's fine too. I choose to read my Bible and pray, and that's my quiet time, my time that's set apart, where I realize I'm not in control. I don't control anything, and I give it to someone who does, the Lord, who controls everything, right? And then something else that's super important is outside time and leisure time. Now, I often ask my clients, what did you do before you had to adult? And a lot of them look at me like this. They don't know. They don't remember. And they haven't advocated for themselves or incorporated any of those things into their adult lives because they feel like everything has to be perfect. The house has to be perfect. The kids have to be perfect. Work has to be perfect. Your body has to be perfect. Your food has to be perfect. So we're just going to forget the play. We're just not going to have fun. And women start taking themselves too seriously. And that becomes a recipe for disaster too. So I highly advocate for my ladies, take a break in the morning, in the afternoon, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever your schedule can afford. Get outside, get some sun, get away from your computer and your phone and work. If you're at work, Go step out onto your patio or walk around the block for 5 minutes. If you're working from home, do the exact same thing. When I take my client consult calls, so with clients who are not yet working with me, I always tell them I'm going to be walking for 30 minutes while we're on this call. And most of the call for me is just listening and encouraging and hearing my women. Um, and I have to have that break because I'm at my computer a lot during the day for work, for school. And so, it's not easy, to make that decision. Well, I'm going to do my client consults while I'm taking a walk. But once I realized that that was something healthy for me, my clients respected it, and it really became a joyful part of my day. I do try to do other exercise that's more targeted, but this is more of like a break. So it's not intended to be exercise, it's more of a mental and physical break. And then leisure time. Again, what would you do for fun? What would you do if you had no adult activities for an entire week and the world was your oyster? And you probably do something amazing like travel to Paris, but let's think a little bit, small scale. Would you paint? Would you read? Would you write? Would you blow bubbles? I had one client who decided her leisure time every day was going to be sitting out in the backyard and using dollar store bubbles to just blow bubbles and watch them pop. And she said it was the most relaxing part of her day. I love that. I've had clients who've picked up the piano again, who've picked up watercolor again, drawing. Some clients to rediscover a love of writing. And it doesn't have to be anything productive. It can just be, sitting there and doodling or sitting in the backyard and watching your kids play. But do something that is more leisure oriented and not work oriented every day. One thing I love doing with my clients is seed cycling. I actually have a free download for you. You can go to my Instagram or my Facebook, Jennifer Woodward Nutrition, and this is on my Linktree bio. So you can just click on it. It's an instant download. It gives you the entire guide to seed cycling, the whys, the wherefores, and the hows. So we talked about days 1 through 14 of your period being your follicular phase, and that's when you want to boost good estrogen and decrease toxic estrogen in the body. Remember, too much estrogen is going to lead to all sorts of symptoms that we don't want. PMS, heavy flow, clots, growth, sore boobies, migraines, insomnia. We do not want those things, and estrogen in excess amounts can definitely lead to those things. So days 1 through 14, we want to block excess estrogen and boost good estrogen. And we can do that through using flaxseed and pumpkin seed. And again, I teach you exactly how to do that in my free download. So go to my website right now, or you can go to Instagram. It's probably easier. Jennifer Woodward Nutrition. Just follow me. Download the seed cycling guide, and then once a week I'll send you a blog that I write on hormones. I will not bother you, I promise. All right, days 15 through 28 is your luteal phase. This is when you boost progesterone. And this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where many women are super deficient. They don't have enough progesterone. Progesterone balances estrogen in the body. If you're anxious, if you're an insomniac, if you have lots of PMS or growth, like we just talked about, you don't have enough progesterone. And you can start boosting those levels of progesterone by seed cycling. Very gentle, non-invasive. There's some, disparity or discrepancy in the literature to say, like, does seed cycling actually work? Who cares? I've seen it work in my practice. If the literature doesn't necessarily corroborate that, I think it's a really fun and tasty way to start balancing out your hormones. And in my practice, I have seen it work to balance many a period in my women, and try it for 2-3 months. If you don't like it, that's okay, no big deal. And if you feel like it's beneficial and helping, then continue with the process. Days 15 through 28 is boosting good vitamin E containing seeds, so sunflower and sesame seeds. And again, for details, go ahead and download my guide. Now, supplements are something that women always ask about. How can I supplement my way out of PMS? Well, newsflash, you can't. All right, supplements are just that. They supplement or adjunct a diet or lifestyle that isn't necessarily tip-top shape. So you don't use this as a pill for every ill, as a pill to fix your PMS or your PCOS or your insomnia. What you're doing is you're building a foundation of nourishment, and supplements can be a valuable part of that. Stabilizing and building progesterone is important no matter if you're pre-period, if you're menstrual, if you're perimenopausal, or if you're postmenopausal, you still need plenty of progesterone in the body, especially for so many of us who are exposed to estrogens in our environment and in our food. What I recommend is 5 times your body weight in magnesium malate, and this is divided. Too much magnesium can actually cause loose stools, so you don't want to start with that. You'll work up to that. Start with 125 milligrams 1 time a day, and then start building on that until you're about 5 times your body weight in magnesium, because every process in your body needs magnesium. Magnesium is also good for blood sugar balance. Magnesium is a cofactor in production of progesterone. Magnesium is very calming to the body. It's relaxing. It's a very relaxing mineral. And so I always advocate magnesium to my clients. Zinc is a very powerful hormone balancing supplement as well. 30 milligrams of zinc with dinner. Zinc is helpful to heal and seal your digestive tract. It helps build healthy skin, hair, and nails. It actually works in the body to promote progesterone and block the effects of too much testosterone if you're dealing with something like PCOS. It is a very powerful and underused micronutrient. So 30 milligrams, not more. And make sure you're doing that with dinner, or it can give you an upset stomach. All right, 100 milligrams of B6 before bed. I love B6. B6 is also a precursor to progesterone. So it has progesterone-like effects in the body, but it also helps build progesterone. It's actually needed to use magnesium in the body and other minerals as well. It helps build stomach acid, and it in and of itself is very calming because it's a precursor also to GABA. And GABA is a precursor in the brain to serotonin, which is your kind of relaxing, calming, joy neurotransmitter. So B6 is very powerful, and most women are pretty deficient because B vitamins are dumped during times of stress. They are water soluble, so if you're not getting them regularly, the body is definitely going to be deficient. And since most of us don't eat enough animal products, you're probably deficient in B6. Number one, I encourage you to start eating more animal products. And number two, to balance out your hormones and periods, start taking about 100 milligrams of B6 before bed every night for a month or two. Then you want to cycle off because that's a higher dose of B6. Then you can kind of start using, whatever your body physiologically needs, 20, 25, 50 milligrams a night. Like I said, it's very calming. It'll help you sleep, and it'll also help balance your mood, especially around your PMS week. So most of my content is free. You can find me at jenniferwoodwardnutrition.com. I've got 200 blogs written all on subjects like this: diet, hormones, weight, exercise, periods, PCOS, Hashimoto's, all of the things that women tend to struggle with. All of that content is on my blog. I've got a lot of information on my website, on my Facebook. There's tons of videos and guides and downloads on my Instagram. Same thing. So please, utilize that content. I love to teach. I love to give you the information that you're asking for. I also have a couple of paid options. You can absolutely get my self-paced program, which a lot of women have been through with great success, balancing out their weight, their mood, their hormones, their libido, their sleep. I'm actually offering it to you at this conference. Normally, a month of that program is $500. You can actually get it this week only for just $100. That's $397 off my program with code RESET2021. And I think you get a copy of these slides, so you can use that code. Just go to my website, jenniferwoodwardnutrition.com. The program's called Nourished. You can find more about it there. You can also work with me one-on-one. I have a few one-to-one coaching spots left. You can go to my website and set up a free discovery call to work with me one-on-one. And then I have group coaching programs. So I've got one coming out, a brand new one in April. I'm so excited. Last group coaching program in January, we had 97 women in that group coaching program. Super fun. We talk every single day on the Facebook group. We've got mini master classes and all, recipes, diet plan, everything you need to feel really good within a month. So that a new one is dropping in April, and you can get on my interest list if you download the free seed cycling guide. So those are just a couple ways to connect with me. And I wanted to say thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you for listening. If you have questions and answers, definitely reach out to me. You can email me at Jennifer at jenniferwoodwardnutrition.com. You can DM me on Facebook or on Instagram. I am definitely happy to answer any of your questions. I really appreciate it. All right, take care. Bye.